Any questions?
Yes. So, with using MicroStrategy, what is the kind of data size that we are looking at, or number of? There would be different reports, but what is the maximum size that we?
So that's a very good question, and I will try to answer, and I will confirm with Matt too. But we do have some reports, which is today we have 500 GB too, from 10 GB to 500 GB, and we do anticipate our data to increase in terabytes. And we did do some POCs, which is in development right now, directly connect to our data lake, which is Hadoop, where we have tested data around 400 to 500 GB.
So do we use any kind of Hadoop connector, or are we using the MicroStrategy Hadoop engine?
MicroStrategy Hadoop engine. Yeah, the driver. And we are connecting through web and ODBC both, on the developer and on the web.
To kind of add to that too, Clarity is a relational database on Epic as our EHR, and that's currently 17 terabytes and grows about 50 gigs a day. And so that's just after we archived about 5 terabytes of access log. So realizing that you can't obviously store that in memory, and you don't want to load that, I mean, the time it takes to load that in Hadoop, we're still looking at timings on that. We do a lot of pre-aggregation. And so looking at the pre-aggregations of it, taking SQL logic, creating data sets at a query level, and loading it into data sets, and then running those on a daily basis.
Must also be using prompts and filters, I guess?
Right,
Yes.
so if we were to create a data set, we'd most likely create it in a generic sense to do aggregated data and then apply filters at your visualization.
And we're doing filter in both sides, cubes and especially in the aggregated data side too.
Does your dashboards and reports offer full drill down to like patient level detail
Yes.
with identifiers exposed?
It is both. So we have summary, of course, and the detail with as what we have. So it has PHI data, and that's why you can see in our demo we did not really show the reports because we can't show in the PHI data, but it is at the patient level.
How do you manage the security of that?
So we do security both ways. One is a row-level security in the database, and also from the MicroStrategy side, we use ACLs and a group level.
And there's actually some interesting things you can do with masking. When you create attributes and metrics at your BI layer, you can actually start casting them as X's as well. So there's creative ways to do some masking. You can do it on the MicroStrategy and the security side, and you can also do it at the data layer, but you can do it in a lot of different ways.
Encrypting the data, basically.
Do you track usage of your reports, like in terms of like who accessed which patient record?
Yes. So we utilize the enterprise manager, and we do see how many users are taking and hitting the reports per day. So we are actually tracking both the usage and execution time and the server usage, but mostly, I guess, business usage, because we want to make sure PHI data has not been seen by someone else because of some missecurity or something. So we do that.
How do you share this information today currently with different physicians?
So when you say different physician, so it's all in Epic.
Do they get access to the MicroStrategy portal?
So this is really meant for management and operational leaders at this time.
Okay.
So getting this portal solution out to 5,000 physicians, and we have a complex, I mean, not all of them are our physicians, we have independent physicians as well. We're still looking at different ways to do that. You could present some of this within the hyperspace experience within Epic, but targeting that level of user is something in the future right now.
Okay.
Yes, I think, yeah, that's right. And I think just to add on one thing, we do have like ICD or some reference codes can be accessible from here, but not really the physician independent data for them.
So data-wise, how far back do you guys go? Last 1 year of data, last 3 years of data?
I would say it's project specific.
Is it
Right.
Yes.
So it depends on what the nature of the project that we create is. And so if we need one project may require a 2-year look back, but a good example of a quality measure in the ambulatory setting is colorectal screens. And so you need to look upwards of 5 years back and looking for different attributes like that. So you don't need to look that far back for other things, but it really depends.
Yes, like for example, HR analytics, we're using 20 years back for all the claims, disability. So we do have a requirement or business need for going back for whatever we could. Mostly we try to keep 3 to 5 years from the robustness.
Are you using predictive analytics at all?
Yes, we are. So we're using, so right now, and again, that's in our roadmap, to really get R integrated from MicroStrategy side of it, but today we have done a couple of predictive analytics using SAP HANA, so our R code is written in SAP HANA, but visualization is still MicroStrategy.
Do you guys see like a standard set of requirements across all your different partners, or is it customized per partner, and do you have a flavor of each of these dashboards based on the different partners you're servicing?
So that's a very good question. And when you say partners, is within Sutter, or you mean partner across different hospitals?
I'm in different hospitals.
Okay,
systems.
so we would love to go there as a generalized KPI. I think that's one of the goals. But today, within Sutter also, we do have differentiate in terms of requirement and standards and KPIs. So for example, one KPI is in this region is called that, and the other region called that. So our first goal is to get that generalized as a converged KPI, and we are moving into that direction. Once that's achieved, then probably we'll move to a different hospital, and Matt, you can add on to.
Right, and just to add a little bit, so, you know, we have, we started out about, I mean, upwards of 10, 15 years ago, all the hospitals were operating independently. And then about 6 years ago, they became a regional structure, and so we had 5 regions. In the last year or so, we got it down to 2 operating. So with that, there's been a lot of organizational change on metric identification. And so when we look at things like a notion of an active patient, there could be different definitions around that. Like, what do you consider as an active patient? And so we're partnering with the business to try to standardize those metrics. So we're hoping that those can get included into our KPI library and we can create some stuff like that. As far as a tool set goes, we are looking at trying to create standard templates for dashboards so that style guide compliance can be adhered to. So that way you have a similar look and feel. People are using similar color schemes. And so a red on one equals a red on another. And so people aren't getting confused by that look and feel differences.
Yes, so graph styles here, we do have standards for those. And also for the requirement, also we came up with a standard template as a requirement template. So we actually share the same template with all the business users, which actually give them an idea to answer what question they can ask us, because some of them are really, really new, have never seen any web tools like that. So that instigate them to really what question they should ask and what we need to build for them.
So across all your sites, do you have different source systems, or are they all on the same?
All in the same Epic instance, actually.
They are.
So right now, we're currently on one Clarity instance, so one SQL server. We use mirroring, and so we can say one Clarity production, but it's actually multiple SQL servers. But yeah, that's the one that's about 17 terabytes now.
Yeah, that's for patient data, but we do have different data sources for our HR, finance, and those are like lying on the different sources, but we are bringing into one data lake so that it will be one source of truth. And I think just to cover one more thing, Canval did cover that we do maintain master data management. So for example, all the list of providers spelled rightly or not, means every system has their own spelling or something, so we do provide master data for providers and patients.
I think we have
And
6
specialists.
domains.
Sorry?
6 domains for master
Yes,
data
6
management?
domain for master data. I think it's provider, specialist, patients, employee, so we do maintain that.
Are you using out-of-the-box Portlet to decide what 6 dashboards to show, or are you customizing the SDK? How does that work?
It's customized based on user
Yeah.
preference or user usability, basically. So whatever reports that they're accessing, that's what's displayed.
No, so from the technology, means I think what you meant is, did we use SDK code? No, we did not. So we're using out-of-the-box MicroStrategy functionality, but it is based on user login.
Yeah.
So, enter login.
Is your find right there, does that search across projects or reports? Or how did, when you were doing the search before?
Yes.
It was coming with a
Yes, so find is for actually, across all the projects, your report name. Anything you find, you will just see it.
And how does that work, since normally search, like a MicroStrategy search is project specific? Normally you have to customize the SDK to go across projects.
No, so this find is basically all the reports under this folder.
Right, and then the
under
MicroStrategy
this
reports
report
are
folder.
actually manually added in there so
That's
that
a
it can
repository.
locate it. Yeah, so.
It's only for all the standard reports across Sutter has been identified, and we keep those, and those can be found.
Yeah.
Not all the projects.
And last question was, you said you were thinking about going to MicroStrategy for like your glossary or your governance tool in some way.
The KPI one.
Yeah, KPI, like, I know SharePoint is a big challenge if you have a list, and like who owns the elements in that list, which
Yes.
report is actually referencing which components? Have you made any progress in getting that to MicroStrategy or?
Actually not, but
It hasn't been a burning platform for us, to be honest. I mean, we've had a lot of other things that we've been doing.
Yeah.
As far as content creation, Rashmi and I were just talking about, our upgrade to 10.1, that you were, how long did it take us?
yeah, we just took 7 weeks
7 weeks to go to 10.1.
from 9.4 to 10.1, so
And so, yeah, and we're looking at 10.2 right now, just seeing what we can do with that. So, so far what we have is meeting business needs, and so we're at a place where we're prioritizing the type of work with our finite resource pool. So if it comes down to, do we create new content, or do we kind of enhance this KPI library that's functional at this point? They're leaning towards content creation.
yes. And we are also actually targeting, hopefully we'll get there one day, but getting a metadata dictionary built from here, business to the technical, but it's all in our pipeline. Yeah, it's based on the priorities.
How big is your MicroStrategy in-house shop? How many people do you have working on MicroStrategy projects?
It's a great question.
Yes.
And there is no real answer to it. And so we do have some developers, we've done some staff augmentation. We actually, EDM as a function called Enterprise Data Management is actually a conglomerate of a few different business functions that came together over time. What we're evolving to is probably a better way to answer the question. We're going to a center of excellence model. And so what we've branded somewhat of a BYOR, since we have a distributed system of developers throughout the regions, bring your own resource. And so if we have an enterprise platform with enterprise standards and give a framework and give you access to the tools and the data, then we can rely on other people to build the content for us, and then we can continue pushing out the platform. So really, in long term, we don't anticipate having that many developers within our shop. And so if we create a small center of excellence, maybe having an administrator, an architect, an analyst, 1 to 2 developers, then we can help mentor developers throughout the enterprise, and developers loosely defined, more web analysts, so they can do content creation.
Exactly, and I guess just to add on that too, because within Sutter one, and I think this MicroStrategy has been introduced just in a year or 1.5 years, and we have so many project requests coming in, so I think that's the best model that came with that bring your own resource, and we will provide the model, support model. And one of our business user is right sitting here, Sangeeta, so she is one of our developer and a business user, and Amelia. But then we provide them as a consulting, what is the best way to do, how your design should be, and that's why we introduced our governance process, design code reviews and everything, if they're using a developer desktop, but the development is done by them. So that's how we are supporting our model.
Do you allow those users to do data import of their own personal files, or do you encourage them to use existing cubes as their data set?
So that's really very good question, because we are still working on the same type of request. So until now, we are not encouraging or actually giving preferences to have their own Excel sheet loaded in their desk. We ask them to have a data mart loaded to our EDM data mart or some data mart, and then pull it from there. However, based on this VI integration, there are so many users now requesting us, they have an Excel sheet with 1,000 rows or 1,500 rows, and they want to manipulate something. So we are coming up with some ideology on that or something. We have not decided yet, but I think we'll have some central repository for those.
Yeah,
So
I
that-
mean, we have 2 standards that we're going after. One is a data lake strategy at the enterprise level, where it can have all of our data that's going to be necessary. It helps with governance and compliance and risk mitigation. As that evolves, we also want the standard enterprise visualization tool as well. And hopefully they will work in sync, but there will always be fallout on both sides, where people will want to have their own data somewhere, where people will want to have their own visualization. So with that, we will rely on governance, and again, it's more of a risk versus reward aspect to it. But I anticipate there will always be one business unit that is going to say that it is mission critical for them to have an Excel file that will have to accommodate.
Exactly, and security will get easier too, because maintaining the security on an Excel and desktop is really tough. So, and we will never know what type of data has been used.
And the maintenance burden on it, I mean, how often they updated the Excel file, I mean, if they're looking at something that's more of a dynamic data set, is there different options like transaction services or connecting into a data mart on a SQL server or
Yes.
some sort of front end that may be more advantageous?
Yeah. But we are doing both functionality, data import and metadata in MicroStrategy. So. Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.